dark sky devoid of visible stars created an unsettling atmosphere around the small village in Ireland. The villagers who had previously been celebrating a wedding in the village center began to feel a sense of discomfort. An old man, Seamus, sat near the fireplace in the local pub, recounting his encounter with a banshee. His wrinkled face and eyes disturbed by memories held all the listeners in silence. The first time I heard her voice, Seamus spoke with his raspy voice. It was like a beautiful song in the midst of a dark night. I didn't know what drew me, but I felt compelled to follow that sound into the dense forest. All listeners paid attention to the story with a sense of unease in their chests. The pub grew quieter. Only the crackling of the fireplace and the rustling wind outside could be heard. As I ventured deeper into the woods, Seamus continued, the sound began to change. From a beautiful song, it turned into a heart-wrenching cry. I felt my hair standing on end, and I knew this wasn't a good omen. A young woman in the corner sipped her tea, her face pale. Everyone in the pub was riveted by Seamus's story, afraid to breathe. And then, under the shadow of the dark trees, I saw her, a young woman in a long gown covering her body. Her long hair flowed in the night air, her eyes glowed red, and her lips formed a cruel smile. I knew she was the banshee. Seamus paused for a moment, adding a dramatic effect to his story. His raspy voice sank deep into the hearts of the tense listeners. With a voice that sent shivers down my spine, she began to sing the song of death. I listened in fear because I knew the sound was a sign that someone in this village would soon die. At that moment, the pub door creaked as the night wind swept in, adding a mystical touch to Seamus's narrative. All eyes turned towards the door with fear. And that night, we lost one of our villagers. He was taken, drawn by death as predicted by the banshee. Seamus stopped for a moment, giving a dramatic pause to his story. The raspy tone of his voice became even more profound, sinking into the hearts of the tense listeners. Since that night, I am certain the banshee remains among us, waiting for the time to announce the next death with her terrifying wail. With his final words, Seamus slammed his cane on the floor, causing a stir among the listeners who were absorbed in the horror story of the banshee. The pub fell silent, locked in tension, while the night wind continued to whistle outside with an unspoken threat.